What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So on a recent video, I got a comment that read, any tips for building muscle if I don't have workout equipment or money for a gym membership? I only have access to bodyweight workouts or trash bags filled with water, but I hear you say a lot that won't cut it for selection. And I want to dive into some things with you guys today and give you a free bodyweight style program, but I want to address this last statement first. I hear you say a lot that won't cut it for selection. And if we are talking about optimizing training for selection, obviously we want to use everything at our disposal to include weights. We're going to have a lot of strength development, carry a lot of weight at selection, and getting those external loads is a great way to build that up. But sometimes we are in positions where we don't have access to these things. And I never want to paint the picture that your prep has to be 100% perfect or optimal, or you're not going to get selected, because that's not the case. There are many, many Green Berets. One of our coaches, CJ, is one of them, who come from situations like this. Maybe they don't have access to equipment, no training background, and just by the sheer grit, they get through it. So I know many Green Berets who have been successful just doing bodyweight work. But to provide some structure to that, I wanted to give a free bodyweight only program that I had available. So I want to go ahead and dive into that with you guys real quick. And before I dive into the program, I didn't put any warm-ups in here, but I want you guys to use the warm-ups as an opportunity to focus on any problematic areas that you have. So a warm-up structure I typically like to use is about 8 to 10 minute warm-up is raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. I'll break down what that means. So raise just means raising our heart rate. This can be a fast walk. It can be if you have a stationary bike, if you have a jump rope, if you want to just do high knees, whatever raises your heart rate for about 2 to 3 minutes. Activate, we want to activate those specific muscle groups. So things like airplanes, things like Copenhagen side plank, which do not require any equipment. Hit those glute medius, hit those adductors, get the hips warmed up, get your shoulders warmed up. Those things are going to set us up for success inside the program. Then mobilize. So a lot of guys can benefit from some world's greatest stretch with a T-spine rotation, or just putting your body through that full range of motion, even if it's just going into a deep squat that you hold. And then you don't have to worry about potentiate. Potentiate just means having some type of explosive movement, kind of priming that CNS, or the central nervous system, for the things that we're going to be doing. But diving into the plan, so it's going to be 3 workouts. This is intended to be a 4-week plan. We're going to have a full body weight session Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then a speed day Tuesday, and we'll dive into the rest here shortly. But diving into Monday's session, we're going to start off after the warm-up with a superset. This is going to be 3 alternating jump lunges, and these are not a conditioning exercise in this particular sense. These are developing that power. So we want to have that max height with each repetition. We're not just going for speed. Then we have some ATG split squats. Use some weight if able, whether it is your trash bag with water in it, a backpack, something that you have access to, or you can focus on nice controlled 5-second eccentrics. Then we want to take a 60, ideally 90-second rest between those. Again, we're focusing on power with these, so we don't need to rush through these supersets. We want to make sure that we get a lot out of these actual movements. Superset B is going to be hand release push-ups, so AFT style, or if you're training up for a different course, going TAC P, CCT, whatever, you can do the push-ups that are specific to your pipeline. Note with these ones, we want to go 3 RIR, which just means reps in reserve, but how I want you to think about it is go within 3 reps of failure without stopping or slowing. When you have to pause, stop and record your reps, and then we want to track our numbers on a weekly basis with these individual sessions and gradually progress up throughout the block. Then we have 6 reps of 1.5 pull-ups. Now, if you're not at 1.5 pull-ups, I just put this in here because it's a good way to get some additional stimulus if you don't have the ability to do weighted pull-ups or other movements. But if you're just at regular pull-ups and building that up, you're completely fine to do regular pull-ups. Focus on your form here. But if you are more advanced, meaning you could do 10, 12 plus strict pull-ups, then we want to do some 1.5 pull-ups. 1 rep in a 1.5 pull-up means chin above the bar. You go halfway down and then chin above the bar and then all the way down, which is 1, 6 per set. And then I didn't put a rest in here on accident, but we're going to take a 90-second rest, 90-second to 2-minute rest between that. Make sure we're nice and primed and ready to go for those push-ups in the next set. Next one is going to be a little bit of core and posterior chain. So hollow body flutter kick. So you're going to hold your body, not your hands under your butt, but holding your body in a hollow body hold, and then 25 4-count flutter kicks. And then we're going to superset that with marching glute bridge. So you want to keep your hips high with bent knee, 1 foot off the ground at a time, and march. And then later that day, you do a 20 to 30 minute zone 2 run. If you are more advanced with your running, you can go ahead and extend this out 45, 60 minutes max. If you're going to go that high, I would separate the sessions as a whole, not going straight into it. But a little zone 2 run later in the day. Then Tuesday, we have our speed day. Start with where you guys are at. So if you are new to speed sessions, maybe you do, 8 sets or 6 sets of 30-60s. Run for 30 seconds hard, and then walk for 60 seconds, or run easy for 60 seconds, maybe take a 60-second break. But if you already have some decent mileage built up, you're running pain-free, you can go ahead and jump into this. So we're going to start off with a 5-minute easy jog. Then we're going to do 2 by 800 meters at a hard but repeatable pace, and then a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, which means, for example, if it takes you 3 minutes and 30 seconds to run that 800 meter run, then we are going to rest for an equal amount of time for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. When you're resting between these, do not run, do not try to do any cardio, rest. We want your heart rate to come back down. We want your breathing to get under control. We want the lactate build up in the muscles to clear out, that burning sensation to go away. And we want to get as much as we can out of these individual intervals. Then we'll go into 4 by 400 meter runs at 80% effort. With these, you're going to be a little bit smoked or taxed from the 800 meter runs. So what I really want you to focus on in this first week is maintaining crisp form. So tall through the head, leaning forward from the ankles, kind of falling into those steps, keeping your foot strike nice and under your center of mass. We don't want to have that form breakdown. You start reaching and developing bad habits. We want to be able to teach our body to maintain that good posture under fatigue. Then week 2 is going to be 5-minute easy jog, 4 by 800 meter run at a hard but repeatable pace. And what I mean by repeatable pace is we don't want to see 320 on that first 800 meter run, and then 330, 340, 350. We would much rather see a little bit slower pace, so 330, 335, but then you're staying right around that number, and the averages are what we're going to be driving down on a weekly basis. Then 1 mile run at 80% effort. Again, same thing as the 400 meters here, focusing on that crisp form, no breakdown. I'd much rather see you slow down on this than having a form breakdown. We want to stay nice and tall, again, teaching our body to move in that posture. 5 minutes easy jog after your warm up, of course, and then 10 by 100 meter sprints. Ease into the first few reps, and then 4 to 8 max effort. So reps 4 to 8, we want to work up to that 90, 100% effort. And then rest is your walk back to the starting line, and then 20 minutes easy to finish that one out. And then week 4 is going to be 6 by 800 meter run at a hard but repeatable pace. Again, that 1-to-1 rest, and then finishing out with a little bit of easy running. So these are going to be every Tuesday, and then record times each week and aim to keep the splits consistent throughout each section. Our goal is not to PR an individual 400 or 800 meter run. That will come with time, but track averages and drive them down throughout the month. Again, start with where you're at. These I like to typically include about 2 to 3 miles worth of speed work, but if you're brand new to speed work, you can cut it down to a mile and a half, and just slowly build up that overall session volume inside of your speed work as you're running pain-free. All right, Wednesday's session, we got a little bit of carries in here. So this is where you can get creative. Maybe you have a backpack, maybe you have water cans, or maybe you have that bag filled of water. Love that. So we'll do 50 meters per side. Again, use what you got, 45 to 60 pounds, and you're aiming on keeping your shoulders nice and parallel to the ground. I don't want you leaning over and having a big compensation with it. And then weighted plank. If you are just building up into the plank and you're a minute is challenging for you, then just go ahead and do that on weighted. If it is not challenging, you can either increase the time if you have nothing, or if you have something weighted, even a buddy that can sit on your back or apply some pressure to your back, want to do a weighted plank for 1 minute. Then we got 1 minute rest before we jump into the next one. Sissy squat, 10 to 15 reps. Go as deep as you can. Hold on to something for stability with these sissy squats. Sissy squats are with body weight only, where you're putting your knees above your toes, holding on to something, and you're essentially trying to touch your knees to the ground or as deep as you can go. If you lack the mobility, it might take a little bit of reps to get that in and start getting used to it, but we want to kind of blow up those quads with it a little bit. Then right after that set, we're going to have a little contrast with vertical jumps, 3 reps immediately after those squats, and you want to go max height for those. So you're going to be jumping through that fatigue with this session today, and then a 130 rest before we start the next set. Superset C is going to be handstand push-ups against the wall. We want to do these strict, so not the CrossFit kipping ones. If that is too hard, do polar bear push-ups. So you're getting up on your toes, putting your butt in the air and putting more of that pressure onto your shoulders. So you're doing more of a vertical push instead of a push-up. We want to get some vertical press exposure or stimulus with it. And then we got an inverted row, which is going to be our horizontal pulling movement for the week. So this can be, you can put a broom between 2 chairs, lay on the ground between them, and you're pulling horizontally, getting your chest nice and high, being explosive with that movement. If you have something, and if it's too easy and you can get 10 to 15 reps, super easy, focus on explosiveness with each one of them, or you can start working on adding some weight if you have a weighted vest or anything like that. Superset D is going to be some push-ups. 20 reps can increase, but we want to grease the groove. We want to keep these sub-maximal. Don't want to take these to failure. But if you're able to do 40 push-ups, then we're probably looking at 30 to 35 push-ups per set. Hamstring walkout, and then I didn't put it here, but a 2-minute rest on this superset, not going into the next one. Hamstring walkout with these, pretty simple, kind of like the glute bridge, but you're walking out to where your legs are straight. And then conditioning no less than 10K steps. Can add a little bit of low impact conditioning if you have the availability or you have some equipment with you. For here, this would be a good place to insert a swim or insert a cycling session, something like that. Our ruck is on Thursday. Again, start with where you're at. If 45 pounds is heavy, and this is not dry, this is 45 pounds total. If that is heavy for you, start with 25 minutes with 25 pounds. Start with, 40 minutes with 25 pounds and just gradually build it up. And the thing is not to necessarily worry about the specific mileage and weight with this one, but start where you're at and then stair step it up. So for example, if you were going to do, let's say you started with 4-mile ruck at 45 pounds. Well, maybe next week you do a 5-mile ruck with 45 pounds. Maybe the week after that, you do another 4-mile ruck or a 5-mile ruck with a 5-pound increase. And then you just gradually stair step it up. So you're never increasing the mileage and the weight at the same time. You're either increasing the mileage or you're increasing the weight. And then I know you hard chargers like to get after it with the ruck runs a little bit. I always talk about we don't need to ruck run perpetually, especially if we're, a far ways out, but every once in a while it's okay to mix in a little ruck run. I like to just keep them shorter, no longer than 6 miles until you kind of get into that peak phase. All right, calisthenic workout 3 on Friday. Got some farmer's carries. So you got your 2 trash bags in this sense. 200 meters, so a little bit longer distance. And every time you set these suckers down, you owe 5 burpees before you can continue. Note with going from week to week in this 4-week program is if you get the 200 meter unbroken, meaning you don't set it down at all, we want to aim to increase the weight the next time. Setting it down 1 to 2 times in those 400 meters is kind of what we're after. I want to get your heart rate up a little bit with some burpees and make that challenging. I don't want you strolling across that 200 meter freaking finish line, like it was nothing. Side plank, 45 seconds per side, and then no rest straight into that next round. Superset B is going to be bodyweight Bulgarian split squats, 5 per side with a 5-second lower, and then squat jumps. 130 rest between that right after the Bulgarian split squats. So again, you're working through that fatigue. And then superset C, max push-ups in 1 minute. Rest as needed, but don't go to your knees. So we want to work that tall plank position. On the PT test, you are not going to be able to go down to your knees and rest. But in this one, you can put your butt up in the air. You can kind of shake it out, but you do not go down to your knees for that time. And then max strict pull-ups, and then a lot longer rest, 3-minute rest here, making sure we're nice and recovered going into that next set. Superset D is going to be hamstring curl, 15 to 20 reps. You can use a towel on the floor. If you have, tile floor or, wood floor or something like that, put a towel on the floor, put your heels on the floor, and then you're doing hamstring curls there. And then single leg glute bridge, 10 per side with a 2-second squeeze at the top. If single leg is too hard and you can't get your hips nice and extended, then go back down to double leg. We want to make sure that we're getting that good squeeze and good stimulus. And then your guys' favorite, this is like the only time that people will ever see me program burpees, but burpee Tabata, 20 seconds on, fast but controlled. So you're not getting sloppy, not having, spinal faults going into extension. And then 10-second rest. So nice and clean going through that 20-second movement, not super fast, just nice and controlled. And then 10-second rest between those rounds, 6 sets total. And then Saturday, we have our run, 15, again, with the runs, start with where you're at. 15-minute zone 2 run or zone 2 pace, then 2 miles at tempo pace, finish with 10 minutes easy. Week 2 is going to be 5-mile run at threshold pace, hard but sustainable. Week 3 is going to be a 60-minute zone 2 run. And then week 4 is going to be 3 rounds, 10 minutes hard, 5 minutes easy, kind of mixing it up for you guys in here. You're welcome to add some additional zone 2 work, kind of like what I talked about on the Wednesday. You can add a bike in there. We can swap out the burpees for a little zone 2 work as well. Then we got that zone 2 run on Monday. So hope that helps, guys. For all of you individuals who may not have access to a gym, or maybe you're going into an environment where you're going to be away from all of the fancy gym equipment for a little bit, put this thing to good use. The link to it is going to be down in the description. Other than that, appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one.